Advice for my younger INFJ self. 5 points. I always felt different from everyone around me as I was growing up. I was more reserved than most people. I overanalyzed everything, and I frequently let my emotions take control. I didn't learn I was an INFJ, the rarest of the 16 Myers-Briggs personality types, until I was in my mid-22s. INFJs typically operate at a different frequency. When I read the description of it, everything clicked into place for me. I realized why I frequently act and think in such ways. What a big relief it was to feel like I was finally making sense. And best of all, to realize that I wasn't crazy after all. When I reflect on the years I spent feeling different from my peers, struggling to fit in, and possibly having a mental health issue, I wish I had known then what I know now. The following is what I would say in a letter to my younger self to urge her to use her newfound knowledge. What I'd tell my younger INFJ self. 5 things. 1. Being the silent one is perfectly okay. Though this is increasingly changing, extroversion is still more highly regarded than introversion in the world we live in. The same criticism from my teachers to my parents persisted throughout primary school. Your daughter is incredibly smart, but she is too quiet. How stressful it must have been for them, especially for my dad, who makes friends with anybody he meets. The more people made it seem like I was breaking the law by being too quiet, the more awkward it made me feel to actually try to speak up and join in. I would retire to my books once classes were over and lose myself there. And being a spectator in someone else's story felt so much simpler to me. But keep in mind that INFJs are reserved not because we lack opinions. We like to give things serious thought before we speak, much like many introverts do. Before acting, we analyze the pros and drawbacks of our options. And there is nothing wrong with that at all. 2. Thinking and feeling excessively is not strange. One extremely distinct childhood memory that led me to question my normalcy was the time I couldn't sleep because so many things were going through my head. I wanted to explore my creativity, reflect on what was going on in my life, decipher my most recent dreams, and consider the meaning of my existence. I can still picture myself tossing and turning, wondering if my peers my age were having similar thoughts, or if they were more interested in the newest trends at school. How easy it would have been if I could have turned my mind off with a switch. INFJs have a propensity for introspection and self-awareness, which accounts for our inclination to overthink. We also yearn for profound significance and meaning in life, which can make us uneasy and feel out of place as we observe our friends going about their days in such a carefree manner. For a young INFJ, life is not always a simple road to travel. Our capacity for enormous personal, professional, and spiritual achievement can, however, astound even us when we're able to harness our special talents, such as emotional depth, intellectual complexity, and a desire to make a difference. 3. Honor your originality. I once showed a close friend a painting I had created. After giving it a thorough examination, he remarked, "This artwork is the product of an artist who is wanting to express herself, but is scared of being recognized." That struck a chord with me so strongly that I'm still going over our talk in my brain today. INFJs are well known for being fairly complicated people. We commonly engage in creative endeavors like writing, art, and music, all of which tend to concentrate on more profound subjects of spirituality, morality, and personal development. Our artistic expression reveals our perceptions and aspirations of the world as well as of ourselves. We take our time getting to know others because we are also very private persons who gradually divulge aspects of ourselves. In terms of presenting my art, this contradiction of expression has made me really uncomfortable. I believed I had important things to say, but sharing it required me to voluntarily expose myself to risk. Additionally, because INFJs constantly strive for perfection, we are quite sensitive to criticism both from others and from ourselves. I started receiving comments from acquaintances and total strangers over time. I would hear tales of people returning to painting after a long absence because of my artwork, or how they felt understood by a narrative I authored. Life can be changed through art. Permit yourself to participate in that. Be genuine in your artistic expression and be proud of the courage it took for you to share it. 4. Introverts can make excellent leaders. I used to think that in order to lead, one had to be loud and gregarious. After all, if you weren't, how else could you expect people to pay attention to you? Ironically, despite my fear of being in the spotlight, I ended up being elected class president in high school. Much to my surprise, acting as the team leader for presentations in class and study groups, and serving as vice president of the Council of Student Organizations at my university, among other things. Being quiet and soft-spoken, it astonished me that my peers listened to what I had to say, and sought my opinion on some issues. I didn't really understand what true leadership looked like until many years later. Leadership takes many forms, including the quiet leadership of example, said American immunologist Dr. Anthony FOSSE. Martin Luther King, Jr., and Nelson Mandela, two well-known INFJs in history, have shown how true this is. INFJs have a few traits that make us excellent leaders. We are really good at changing, figuring out how to do better at things, and stepping up when the time comes. We can read people very well because we are empaths. We are aware of when to push and when to back off, when to provide direction and when to encourage freedom. We value personal development, and we aspire to improve personally, influence the world, and motivate others to do the same. 5. It's appropriate for certain friendships to sever ties. INFJs are typically sensitive and reserved when they are younger. We tend to have just one or two close friends since we have a hard time interacting in social situations. Although we are private people, we have a tremendous desire to be liked. And since INFJ is considered to be the rarest MYERS-BRIGGS type, it can be challenging to locate someone with whom we can relate. INFJs typically take our time to assess the other person, taking into account their interests, passions, views, and aspirations in order to create and sustain friendships with great care. We can be perfectionists even in our friendships. We constantly seek out the highest level of compatibility. We will fiercely cling to those relationships when we finally meet somebody with whom we can actually connect. But people change, just like everything else in life. One day we wake up and discover a friend we previously thought of as our soulmate now resembles a complete stranger. We discover that our shared values have changed. Now conversations appear meaningless, uninteresting, and hollow. Time to move on is now. It's okay if certain friendships do not last through time and distance. I've grown to love being an INFJ ever since I discovered my personality type. For me, life will always be complicated, and I will always be that idealistic advocate who lies awake dreaming, someone who thinks and feels too much. I've learned through the years that I don't have to fit in or be constrained by what I think of as my flaws. You'll be surprised to learn just how much you're capable of when you take the time to develop self-awareness, accept your flaws, and leverage your talents. Keep on, little INFJ. You will also experience a planet in bloom.